When I first started sketching and watercoloring last year, I realized that it was a hobby that could get really expensive really quickly. And the idea of outfitting myself as an artist felt really overwhelming. But it turns out that it doesn't really have to be. I ended up putting together a kit that I can throw in my bag and take with me when I go out with my notebook that cost less than $50 and only takes up a very small amount of space. So I thought I would show you exactly what I ended up with, as well as some upgrades that I've done over time. Just a few items so that you will be ready to capture a moment when you have the time to sit down and sketch and include that in your memories of the day. To be honest, I feel a little naked now whenever I am out in the world without a sketchbook and at least something to draw with. So this kit has become pretty important in my life. But let me show you exactly what it includes. The first thing that I take almost everywhere is, of course, my traveler's notebook. I love this notebook. I use it for everything. Occasionally, I will bring a sketchbook with me. This sketchbook is something that I reserve specifically for Urban Sketchers events, just because it's easier to, when we share our work, throw down a sketchbook that's specifically for that purpose. Usually though, just my traveler's notebook. You can get watercolor paper for this. I am willing to deal with a little bit of buckling of the paper in order to have everything in one place. So that's the first item. Paper of some sort. Seems pretty obvious. The second item is drawing utensils. Some of these you probably already have in your collection. I usually bring with me a pencil, some sort of waterproof marker. I like these Micron pens, but I also, as an upgrade, like my favorite fountain pen filled with waterproof ink. And then an eraser. Really, all you need to go out and sketch is the pencil and the paper. But it's my preference to have some sort of pen available. And I always bring an eraser so that if I sketch out with pencil first and go over it with pen, I can then erase my pencil marks. I also carry a pencil sharpener because obviously if you're going to have pencils, you don't want to be stuck with a broken one. And then there's color. So for color, the very first thing that I bought in order to watercolor in my sketchbooks and notebooks was this very simple Winsor & Newton pre-populated watercolor palette. It comes with all the colors inside it already. And I think this cost about $20. I will actually link it in the description though so that you can see the exact palette that I bought. This served me really well for quite a while, and I do still use it sometimes, but at some point I decided I wanted to go even smaller and more convenient for myself. And this was a pretty big upgrade for me, but I bought this palette from Artist Toolkit. You can't believe how tiny this is. Look at how tiny it is. Like that. So the Artist Toolkit palette, this little one, I have it set up to hold 8 colors. The palette itself wasn't that expensive. I think it was probably $20 or $25, but it came empty. So the real expense was buying tubed watercolors that would go into and fill this palette. I have 8 colors in here, and watercolor tubes run $10 to $15 and up a piece. So right here we have probably at least $100 of paint and palette. And that paint is plenty enough to refill this palette over and over and over again. But as an initial investment, it's far easier to go with just this $20 pre-filled palette than this $100 custom one. As tiny and cute as it is. The great benefit to this tiny one though is that it slides right into a pocket in my notebook. You barely even know it's there. The other thing you need with watercolor is, of course, brushes. And in my case, when I go out, I usually only bring 1 or 2 water brushes with me. I know that some experienced watercolorists are probably clutching their pearls and gasping in shock that this is what I use most of the time. But this is just a little brush, synthetic bristles, and it has water in a well already included in the brush. And it's just so easy when you're out and about and trying to just sketch something quickly on the go. So this is what I use most of the time. I did upgrade myself to a set of cute little travel brushes. These pack into their handle and open up to be a full-size brush. These are great, but they do involve carrying extra water around with me. And honestly, this is so easy that most of the time this is what I revert to, unless I'm going on a specific sketching sort of adventure where that is the purpose of the trip. These are not very expensive, and on Amazon you can actually buy a set of them for under $10. Higher quality ones may be between $4 and $8 a piece. And finally, the last thing that I always bring, and this is really specific to me, I think, but I love this Graphitint pencil from Derwent. This is a watercolor pencil, and the color is called Shadow. The reason that I love this watercolor pencil is I use it just for what the name implies, for adding shadows to things. I have other watercolor pencils now, but this is the one that I carry around with me because if I do nothing else to an image I'm drawing, except use this to draw in some shadows and then go over it with a little bit of water, it adds such depth and interest to whatever I'm drawing. So I always have my shadow pencil with me. I just keep it with my Micron pen and my pencil and my water brush. This is such a crazy short list of items, and they serve me so well. So if you are thinking about getting into like adding more images, more drawings to your notebook, or towards starting a sketchbook, towards adding watercolor as maybe a new part of your art or journaling practice, I would really encourage you to give it a shot, and don't be scared by the price tag because you can do this really easily. I'm not, however, going to promise you that it won't get expensive in the long run because I have definitely made some upgrades over the past year. I've added some new materials. I've been excited to try new things, and so I've bought some of those things to use. But it doesn't have to be that way, and it is really pleasurable just using the basics. I hope you enjoyed this little tour through my everyday Carey for watercolor sketching, and until next time, I am wishing you love and joy and all of those good things, and I can't wait to talk to you again. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, you might also like the one that I made when I first started watercoloring. I dove into the science of neuroaesthetics and how art actually changes your brain and why it feels so good to partake in it. That video is right here for you to check out.